Hello, welcome to another session with me, Aruna Dantabhaktuni. In today's session, we will learn about data prep using pivoting. So let's first load our dataset. This is a dataset you have seen in some of our other tutorials as well. This is a demographics data which contains patient code, age, sex, height, weight. The pivoting, we will actually be using that command which is part of the library tidyr. So let's load the tidyr library. So now what we will do is we will actually pivot longer, and what we will be picking are the age, height, and weight. Let's see how the dataset now would look. So as you can see in the dataset, all we have done is we have taken the age, weight, and height and pivoted that in the dataset. So for each of the subject now, you actually see that there is a name and value column that got added. And in that, the age, height, and weight is repeated for each subject. So each subject is shown as a triplicate, and the value for each of them has been provided. When you look at the column headers of the two new columns that got added, are actually just chose, some standard names there. We could change the column headers just by simply picking the name that you want to convert it to. Let's call it key and change the value to, a capital V, just for the sake of this example. Yeah. So there you go. So the headers have gotten replaced. Now you might ask, why don't we pivot all of the data that is there in the data set? So let's try to do that and see what happens. As you can see, it actually runs into an error. The reason is that your data set has both character and numeric data, and it would not work if it is both. It should be either or. So that was your pivot longer. Now let's do pivot wider. So in order for that, let's load the second data set. This is a data set that you had seen in our previous tutorials as well. This data set contains the test data. That is, it contains patient code, time, and concentration. So what we'll be doing here is we will be pivoting wider. So wherein we are going to be pivoting the time and concentration values from the data set. And what we are also doing is picking the values from concentration. Let's have a closer look at the data now, what has been done. As you can see in our previous data set, or the original data, the way this was represented was each subject had time and concentration for each of the sampling times. So now that we have pivoted it wider and chosen that, and again, it's the same time value for each of the subjects. That is the reason why we are able to pivot it wider, so that the time values are actually on the headers and each of the corresponding concentrations are right underneath that. So, in this case, we have been able to shrink the number of rows to make that smaller. Again, this could be something that may be useful for you while you're working in your data prep. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in our future tutorials.